Some foods exist to nourish. Others exist to test everything you thought you knew about what belongs on a plate. Around the world, people eat fish that can kill you if sliced the wrong way, cheese that is crawling with live insects, fruit so pungent it has been banned from public transit, and delicacies so rare they cost more per gram than gold. Every food on this list is extreme for a specific, measurable reason. Some are deadly, some are illegal, some just smell so bad they have been banned from airplanes. And the first one carries enough poison to kill 30 adults, fugu. The pufferfish has been eaten in Japan for thousands of years, and it remains one of the only foods on Earth that can kill you during an ordinary restaurant dinner. The liver, ovaries, and intestines of a pufferfish contain tetrodotoxin, a poison more than 1,000 times more toxic than cyanide. A single fish holds enough to kill roughly 30 people, and there is no antidote. The toxin paralyzes you from the outside in while you remain fully conscious the entire time. And here is what makes fugu stranger. The fish does not produce the poison itself. It accumulates tetrodotoxin from bacteria in its diet, which means farmed pufferfish raised on controlled feed can be nearly toxin-free. But the Japanese government still requires chefs to complete years of training before they can serve fugu. The licensing exam in Tokyo fails about a third of its applicants. The most famous fugu death happened on January 16, 1975, in Kyoto. Bando Mitsugoro VIII, a legendary kabuki actor and designated living national treasure, sat down to dinner and requested 4 servings of fugu liver, the single most toxic part of the fish. His 3 companions each ate a single portion and were fine. Bando, with 4 times the dose, was not. He died of gradual paralysis roughly 7 hours later, reportedly claiming before the meal that he was immune to the poison. The Kyoto chef was convicted of professional negligence. Within a decade, fugu liver was banned nationwide, and that ban stands to this day, even for farm-raised fish with no detectable toxin in their flesh. Fugu's danger is invisible, hidden inside the organs. But the next extreme food is dangerous for something you can very much see with the naked eye: kasu marzu. In Sardinia, there is a cheese that is only considered ready to eat when it is crawling with thousands of live maggots. The name translates to rotten cheese, and the process starts with a wheel of pecorino sardo. Producers slice the top off and leave it exposed for cheese flies to lay their eggs inside. Over 2 to 3 months in a dark hut, the hatched larvae digest the fats inside the wheel, fermenting the cheese into a soft, weeping paste that Sardinians call lagrima, which means tears. The larvae are about 8 millimeters long, and they can jump. When the cheese is disturbed, the maggots inside kasu marzu can launch themselves up to 15 centimeters into the air, which is why experienced eaters in Sardinia hold a hand over the cheese or shield their eyes while scooping it out. If the maggots in the cheese are dead, it is considered to have gone bad. Living maggots wriggling through the paste are the quality control. Guinness World Records named kasu marzu the most dangerous cheese on the planet. The concern is that the larvae can survive stomach acid and potentially bore through intestinal walls. It has been banned from commercial sale in Italy since 1962 and is illegal across the European Union and the United States. But kasu marzu refuses to disappear. Sardinians have been making it for centuries, and it still circulates through a black market on the island. So far, nobody has figured out how to make maggot cheese that any health regulator is comfortable approving. Kasu marzu has insects that jump at your face. The next extreme food fights back in a completely different way. It grabs onto your throat. Sanakji. In South Korea, freshly killed small octopus is chopped into pieces and served immediately with sesame oil and seeds, while the tentacles are still visibly writhing on the plate. The octopus is technically dead, but the nerve clusters in each arm continue firing independently after separation, and the suction cups along each tentacle remain fully functional. That is where the danger starts. Those active suction cups can latch onto the inside of your mouth and throat, creating a real choking hazard. Data from Seoul Emergency Services and Korean media reports indicate that roughly 6 people die from sanakji choking every year, almost always elderly diners or people who have been drinking heavily. Alcohol dulls the swallowing reflex, which is exactly the wrong combination with a food that grips back. Sanakji is not a novelty or a dare. It has deep roots in Korean coastal culture as a symbol of freshness and vitality, eaten in fishing communities for generations. The dish even became central to a criminal case when a man claimed his girlfriend choked to death on live octopus during dinner. Prosecutors argued he forced it down her throat for insurance money. After years of appeals, the Supreme Court acquitted him. The safest way to eat sanakji is to chew thoroughly, keep the pieces small, and stay sober. Sanakji is extreme because it moves on your plate. The next food on this list is extreme for something you can detect from across a room before you even touch the container. Surströmming. If you have ever seen one of those online videos where someone opens a can of food outdoors and gags before anything reaches their face, there is a good chance it was surströmming. This is fermented Baltic herring from northern Sweden, and it is widely considered one of the smelliest foods on earth. The tradition dates back to at least the 16th century, when a salt shortage forced Swedish fishermen to use less brine than usual. Instead of preserving the herring, the reduced salt allowed bacteria to ferment it. The result was pungent but edible, and the practice stuck. Today, herring caught in spring are lightly brined and sealed in tin cans, where fermentation continues for at least 6 months. The bacteria produce hydrogen sulfide, which smells like rotten eggs, butyric acid, which smells like rancid butter, and propionic acid, which smells like body odor. The gases make the sealed cans bulge visibly under pressure. That smell has made surströmming famous, far beyond Sweden. Several airlines, including British Airways, Air France, and Finnair, have banned the pressurized cans from flights entirely. Sweden marks the start of surströmming season on the third Thursday of August, a date once set by royal decree. And despite everything you have just heard, Swedes eat it on thin flatbread called tunnbröd with sliced potatoes, raw onion, and sour cream. The key is to open the can outdoors or underwater to contain the initial blast. Once you get past the first wave, the actual flavor is salty, tangy, and surprisingly mild. If you are finding this interesting, hit subscribe. I cover the history and science behind everyday food every week. Surströmming is banned from airplanes. The next food is banned from an entire country's subway system. Durian. The fruit that most of Southeast Asia calls the king of fruit is prohibited on public transit in Singapore, where carrying one onto the subway carries a fine of 500 Singapore dollars. Hotels across the region post signs at their entrances with a crossed-out durian image. Airlines refuse to carry it in cargo. The reason is the smell. Descriptions range from rotting onions to raw sewage to unwashed gym socks. A 2017 genome study published in Nature Genetics found the answer inside the fruit's DNA. Durian contains an expanded set of genes responsible for producing volatile sulfur compounds, the same chemicals that make garlic and natural gas smell the way they do. In durian, production of these compounds is, as one researcher put it, turbocharged. The smell lingers for hours in air-conditioned spaces because the sulfur molecules pass straight through standard ventilation filters. What makes durian genuinely divisive is that the smell has almost nothing to do with the taste. The flesh inside the spiky shell is rich, custard-like, and creamy, with notes of vanilla, caramel, and almond. Fans across Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia consider it one of the finest fruits in the world. Some premium varieties sell for hundreds of dollars per fruit, and the famous Musang King cultivar from the Malaysian highlands alone can fetch over $50 for a single piece. The gap between how durian smells and how it actually tastes is one of the largest disconnects in food. Durian's smell comes from its genetics. The next food's smell comes from months of deliberate decay applied to one of the oldest animals on the planet, hakarl. Iceland's national dish is fermented Greenland shark, and it starts with a fundamental problem. Fresh Greenland shark is toxic. The animal has no urinary tract, so its flesh is heavily saturated with urea and a compound called trimethylamine oxide. Eating it raw will make you violently sick. Dogs along the Icelandic coast have been poisoned by it. The Greenland shark itself can live for over 400 years and grow past 6 meters long, making it one of the oldest and largest vertebrates on the planet. But none of that matters until you figure out how to make the meat safe. Icelanders figured this out centuries ago. The traditional method involves burying the beheaded, gutted shark carcass in gravelly sand under heavy stones for 6 to 12 weeks. The pressure squeezes out the toxic fluids, while slow fermentation breaks down the dangerous compounds in the flesh. After the burial, the meat is cut into strips and hung in open-air drying sheds for another 4 to 5 months. The result is safe to eat, but it smells intensely of ammonia. The scent has been compared to strong cleaning products, ripe cheese, and things you would never voluntarily bring near your mouth. Shark fishing in Iceland goes back roughly 700 years, and shark liver oil was once valuable enough to light the street lamps of Copenhagen. Today, hakarl is traditionally served in small pale cubes on toothpicks, often chased with a shot of Brennivin, Iceland's signature caraway spirit. Visitors to the Bjarnarhofen Shark Museum on the Snæfellsnes Peninsula describe the first bite as a genuine challenge and the aftertaste as something that lingers far longer than expected. Hakarl transforms through months of fermentation and open air. The next food transforms through pure chemistry, no bacteria needed, and not a single degree of heat. Century eggs. Despite the name, century eggs do not take 100 years to make. The name is a Western exaggeration for a process that actually takes a few weeks to a few months. The real method involves chemistry, not time. Duck, chicken, or quail eggs are packed in a thick coating of clay, wood ash, salt, quicklime, and rice hulls. The strongly alkaline mixture slowly raises the pH inside the sealed egg to somewhere between 9 and 12, which is high enough to denature the egg proteins the same way cooking would, but without any heat at all. The transformation is dramatic. The egg white turns into a dark brown, translucent jelly that wobbles like aspic. The yolk becomes a creamy, dark greenish-gray center, with a texture somewhere between soft cheese and fudge. The flavor is rich and deeply savory, with a sharp ammonia note that people frequently compare to aged blue cheese. Cut one open, and the inside looks like something that belongs in a geology display case, not on a dinner plate. The origin traces back to Ming Dynasty Hunan, roughly 600 years ago. The story goes that duck eggs were found naturally preserved at a construction site where slaked lime had been used as mortar. Someone tried one, and the recipe spread. Today, century eggs are common across China and Southeast Asia. They are sliced into rice congee for breakfast, paired with cold silken tofu and soy sauce, or eaten on their own with pickled ginger. Century eggs are startling to look at, but perfectly ordinary to eat once you try them. The next extreme food on this list is startling for a completely different reason, and it has been illegal in France for more than 2 decades. Ortolan. The ortolan bunting is a tiny songbird found across Europe, roughly the size of a human thumb, and for centuries it was considered one of the most prized delicacies in French cuisine. The way it is prepared and consumed is one of the most extreme food rituals in recorded history. Captured ortolan buntings are traditionally kept in small, dark cages, or in older times were deliberately blinded to trick their bodies into believing it is time to prepare for migration. This triggers an instinct to gorge, and the birds are fed on a diet of millet, oats, and figs until they roughly double in body weight. When they are fat enough, they are drowned in Armagnac brandy. Then they are plucked, roasted briefly at high heat, and served whole. The diner places the entire bird in their mouth in a single bite, bones, organs, and all, and chews slowly. Only the beak is left behind. And then there is the napkin. Diners traditionally drape a large cloth napkin or towel over their heads before eating the ortolan. The reasons given vary depending on who you ask. Some say the fabric traps the aroma and steam rising from the roasted bird. Others say it hides the act from the eyes of God. A more practical explanation is that it simply contains the heat and fat that spray out while crunching through the tiny skeleton. The late Anthony Bourdain described eating one as a hot rush of fat, guts, bones, blood, and meat, and said it was genuinely delicious. Hunting ortolan buntings was outlawed in France in 1999 after the wild population declined severely. One study recorded an 88% drop since 1980. Trade in the bird is now banned across the European Union, but the ortolan's most famous appearance came just before the ban took effect. French President François Mitterrand reportedly ate 2 ortolans as part of his final meal on New Year's Eve 1995, just 8 days before his death from prostate cancer. He ate them, by all accounts, beneath the traditional napkin. Ortolan is extreme because of the ritual surrounding it. The last food on this list is extreme for the simplest reason of all: its price. Almas caviar. The most expensive food in the world comes from one of the rarest and most ancient animals in the ocean. Almas is a white caviar harvested from the albino beluga sturgeon, a massive fish found in the Caspian Sea that can grow past 6 meters long and weigh well over 1,000 kilograms. The word almas means diamond in Farsi, and the price reflects that name. According to Guinness World Records, 1 kilogram of almas regularly sells for around $34,500. It is sometimes packaged in a 24-karat gold tin. What makes almas so extraordinarily rare is time. The albino beluga sturgeon must reach between 60 and 100 years of age before it produces the pale, delicately flavored eggs that qualify as almas caviar. The fish swimming in the Caspian Sea right now that will eventually yield almas were born decades before the internet existed. Only an estimated 10 kilograms of almas is produced and sold worldwide in any given year, making it arguably the most exclusive food product on Earth. Importing beluga caviar of any kind into the United States has been illegal since 2005 because the sturgeon is critically endangered. But almas is not alone at the top of the food price list. White Alba truffles from Piedmont in Italy cannot be farmed and must be found wild by trained dogs. A single truffle sold at auction for $330,000 in 2007. Japanese A5 Wagyu, graded on a 12-point marbling scale, regularly sells for several $100s per pound because its fat melts at just below body temperature. And saffron, hand-picked 3 tiny red threads at a time from crocus flowers, needs roughly 150 flowers to produce a single gram. Some foods are extreme because they can kill you. Some because they smell like nothing you have ever encountered, and some because growing, finding, or harvesting them demands more time, labor, and patience than almost any other product the natural world can offer.